Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. Here we go again. It is a fabulous Friday here in the studio as I record. Grateful to be back with you yet again. And today I am inspired to talk about a subject about persisting, keeping swimming in the case of this particular Harvard study from 1957 that I came across, where they were studying rats, and basically what they were doing, certainly 1950s standards of animal testing was probably a little different, but they would put these rats in a pool and see how long they would tread water. And what they found is that they would tread water for about 15 minutes and then drowned. So as a variation, what they would do is when they got close to the 15 minutes, they started then as a secondary test, pulling them out and letting them rest for a few minutes, drying them off, and then put them back in the pool. Now, hearing this, what do you think happened when you put them back in the pool? Did they go less, another 10 minutes, another 15 minutes, 5 minutes, longer, 30 minutes? They lasted 60 hours, 2.5 days, because, well, why? What they basically postulated is because they believed they could be saved, they found the strength and the energy to keep on keeping on. In Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, where he talks about being, in the Nazi concentration camp, very similar, right? The people who had the will to live and had a reason and believed that they could be saved and there's something that they wanted to see or do, their family, etc., they lasted way longer than those who gave up, right? And it's such a great example of, a lot of times we're going through hell. And as Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going, because a lot of times the breakthrough is right after the breakdown, right? We know that at this point, the flower pushes through the pavement, at the last possible moment, and it's always darkest before the dawn. And so often, I know I look back retroactively on my life and can see like, what would have happened if I hadn't thrown in the towel at that moment, And of course, I've had the other side of that where I know I pushed through and persevered. But I think we've all had the throwing in the towel and then kind of second guessing ourselves later, right? And so, the resistance to unpleasantness is sort of the root of our suffering, right? And our ability to push, it's always, you can look at any profession like sales, for example. It's like 10% of the sales, 90% of the sales come from 10% of the people, something like that. I remember hearing. It's like, it's those people that push just a little bit harder and go that extra mile that get way more reward. And so, this message, when I saw it, it felt, like a timely one to talk about. And I'm sure there's people out there that just feel like giving up. I know I've had less inspired moments in the last year than I have as far back as I can remember, honestly. And what if I'm just okay with that and just like, you know what? I don't need to feel uh lit up. It's our resistance to the unpleasant that is the root of the suffering. Resistance to that unfamiliar territory. And how oftentimes it's like mind stuff that's in the way. And one thing's for sure, if you just keep going, you are going to have some sort of a breakthrough. Something is going to change. It may not show up in the way that you anticipate, right? But just keep going. Becoming stronger, becoming that diamond, which was only, coal that held up to pressure very well. This is like, across the board, the path for all of us. And, if you knew that inevitably someone, was going to come and pull you out of the water, you are going to get a break. Knowing that it isn't over if you haven't won, that fuels us, right? So yeah, as I was, kind of exploring this, I came across a clip from Ram Daas, and it's relevant, and even he goes into other things above and beyond this kind of persistence. But yeah, I felt like it's a good one to share. I'm gonna go ahead and cue it up now. It's "How to Keep Your Heart Open in Hell" is what it was titled on the After School YouTube page. Who is where I found it. Take a listen.
One of the things that has changed in me is that I have begun to fall in love with the universe. And it's hard to talk about that. Let me read to you two poems. This first one is by a Buddhist monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. Very beautiful monk. I won't read the whole thing. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond. I am also the grass snake who, approaching in silence, feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. I am also the merchant of arms, selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee in a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom in all walks of life. My pain is like a river of tears, so full it fills up all the 4 oceans. Please call me by my correct names, so that I can hear at the same time all my cries and my laughs, so that I could see that my joy and pain are but one. Please call me by my correct names, so that I could become awake, so the door of my heart be left open, the door of compassion. All my names. The quality of love has no boundaries. There's no other in love. There is us at one level, and at the deeper level there is only I. We are merged in love. Call me by my true names. The other quote is still in dualism, but it's on the edge. It's a quote from the poet Kabir. Since the day when I met with my Lord, there has been no end to the sport of our love. I see with eyes open and smile, and behold his beauty everywhere. I utter his name, and whatever I see, it reminds me of him. Whatever I do, it becomes his worship. Wherever I go, I move round him. All I achieve is his service. When I lie down, I lie prostrate at his feet. Whether I rise or sit down, I can never forget him, for the rhythm of his music beats in my ears. Now, in the states of awareness, where you see there is one, there are no boundaries, there are no separatenesses. And then as that one starts to come into form as separate, you look at the separate forms it has taken with a quality of awe and wonder when you're looking from there. When you're looking from the point between what's called the form and the formless, right at the edge, and you look down at form, or out at form, or up at form, there's no direction. You look at form, you see the absolute awful beauty of form. And you see, as Plato talks about it, the law that you appreciate as what you call God oftentimes, is just all form in law. It's all lawfully related. It's called the Tao in Chinese, the way of things. It's the way in which all forms are related to all other forms. And you look and you see it's perfect. You can look in physics or chemistry or astronomy or astrology or psychology or music, or wherever you look, you begin to see that forms are related all to all other forms, all in lawful ways. It gets interesting when you get down to quarks or things like that, but everything above that, it looks pretty well. And there is an interesting term. When you look at the way in which those things are all lawfully related, you say, it's perfect. My guru in India used to say to me, Ram Daas, don't you see it's all perfect? I'd say, perfect? Perfect? What about Bangladesh? What about Africa? What about tyranny? What about violence? What about greed? He said, don't you see it's all perfect? Can't you step back for a moment from your humanity to see the way of things? Can't you see the way it's all lawfully unfolding? The question is, have you the courage to see what you're seeing? Or does it seem to take away your humanity? Because when you look and you say it's all perfect, the problem is it's so impersonal. Somebody falls down in front of you and you say, karma. See, there's no warmth to it. But if you come down into your human heart, the pain is unbearable. Because there is so much suffering everywhere. And you look and there's rape, and there's child molestation, and there's ecological insensitivity, and there's tyranny, and there's terrorism, and there's... Which one is it first? Starvation, the homeless. Who is it? Where does your heart go first? And what most people do is they close their heart down and they armor it to protect it from the immense amount of suffering. They armor it with their mind, with thoughts, with a web or a net or a veil of thought that armors the heart so that they don't get hurt and overwhelmed by the immensity of the suffering. Because you know how when your child hurts, you give anything. And the quality of the heart is, the heart has no boundaries. My heart goes out to you is the expression. The heart will give. The heart doesn't know boundaries. The mind knows the boundaries. The heart says, here, take my automobile, take my apartment, take anything. And the mind saying, now wait a minute, be reasonable. And there is an interesting dialogue that goes on within us. And so this armoring protects not only our hearts from the amount of suffering outside, but it protects our separateness from our heart, which would give away our separateness. It would give away everything. Give away everything. And so the interesting question is, how do you keep your heart open in hell? And what does it mean to be in love with the world? And what does it mean in action? What do you do? The answer lies again in the statement, at least the answer that I have found thus far, that there's nowhere to stand. That if you stand only in your humanity, it's unbearable. If you stand in the area of perfection, it's impersonal. If you get them both going at once, it is the root of what I understand true compassion to be about. It is something where, unlike Job, which questions God at some point, you do what you do because your human heart hurts and you want to do what you can to relieve the suffering of the people you love. And at the same moment, there's not a flicker in you as to it is all as it must be. I work with AIDS patients now. I do a lot of work with AIDS patients. And a fellow calls me and he just found he has AIDS. And he was a law student and all of his plans have now gone awry and his whole life has changed. And he's frightened. And my heart, my human heart, cries with him. And so he hears there's a fellow human heart that's empathizing with him. At the same moment, there's another part of me that's just looking at the universe as it is and saying, yes, and this too, and this too. He has a new curriculum now. This is heavy work for his soul. He's going to do new work in terms of awakening. Because when you look at individuals from the level of soul or awareness or spiritual entityness, you see the entire earth plane and all the personality and all the physical things and the death and sickness and illness and all of it. You see it all as the curriculum of the soul. When you look at it from the personality point of view, it's horrible. And that seems so unfair and suffering seems so cruel. And for you to hear the term, suffering is grace, not that you would ask for it, but that when it comes your way, you work with it. You work with it as part of your spiritual journey of awakening. Because the only reason anybody suffers is because of the clinging of their mind. Starvation is just a certain set of pangs. The fact that you suffer when you starve is because of the mind's identification with the separateness. When Ramana Maharshi, the great saint in India, was dying, and his devotees were crying, Bhagwan, Bhagwan, don't leave us, don't leave us. He said, don't be silly, where could I go? I'm just dropping my body, it's no big deal. When you have that level of awareness, then the whole meaning of suffering changes. And all suffering is showing you is where your mind is still clinging. To pull your awareness back from the time-binding nature of mind allows you to be fully here. To be fully here, am I happy? Yes, I'm happy. I'm happy because it's spring. I'm happy because people are having babies that are bringing joy into their lives. I'm happy because flowers are blooming. I'm happy for a myriad reasons. Am I sad? Yes, I am sad. Because every 45 seconds, a child is dying needlessly from hunger. I'm sad because there is so much inhumanity among humans to each other and to other species. I am sad because there's so much fear. In this moment, I am both happy and sad. As long as you try to stay in the world of polarities, happy, sad, dark, light, positive, negative, good, evil, you cannot experience the richness of the moment. The richness of the moment is the one that lies just behind the two.
Before we continue on with today's episode, for those of you interested in getting more fantastic fungi in your life, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about a friend of mine's brand new company, The Great Mother. Recently, I have been drinking the Great Mother's superfood mushroom coffee alternative called a Ritual, as well as regularly taking their awesome Ally microdoses, and I am truly loving both. As you probably know, these days, many of the world's highest achievers and performers swear by microdosing. The problem is it can still be difficult to get a hold of magic mushrooms. That's why when my friend reached out, who lives in an area and country where legalization is not a problem like it was in the past, and said he'd be willing to offer microdoses to my listeners, I wanted to pass the word along. Ally microdoses are 100% organic. And in addition to a small amount of the magic active ingredient, they also contain functional mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and other brain boosters like bacopa. Ally is essentially a full spectrum nootropic. And of course, the coffee alternative Ritual doesn't contain magic mushrooms, but it has an array of the best organic functional mushrooms in the world. And, with functional mushrooms, it's really important to get them from the highest integrity sources. And whereas some other highly popular mushroom coffee alternatives on the market only contain a few varieties of functional mushrooms in their actual ingredients, Ritual has 7. Not only does it contain more types, it also contains 3 to 4 times the amount that the big brands have in each serving. And it tastes amazing. I actually like to have it on its own, as well as mixing it into my coffee sometimes as well. However, since this is definitely a unique offering, there are a few steps. First, just reach out and request to follow the private page, thegreat.mother on Instagram. Once you've been accepted to follow, just message what you're interested in getting and someone will get back to you. So I think all of this whole clip, it really helps to understand why, a lot of times we don't keep going, we don't persist because we get in the story of, oh, woe is me, poor me, this is so tough, why is the world aligning against me? And just seeing, I love all the examples he gives and shares of the frog and the snake, and some horrible things that he shared, as far as that happen in the world that devastate our heart. But if you can, as he talked about, call me by my correct name so I can see that the joy and pain are but one. So I can become awake so my heart can open the door of compassion. It's, the crack is where the light comes in, right? So learning to step back from our humanity to see the true way of things. And do you have the courage to do this? Because most of us, how many armor their heart to protect from suffering? And meanwhile, that keeps you small. It keeps you in duality. And how do you keep your heart open? We talk about that all the time on the show, right? There's, as he said, nowhere to stand is the problem. Perfection is seeing it all as perfect is kind of impersonal. Our humanity, is unbearable, but both going at once, true compassion can open up. And I loved that. Understanding it's all the curriculum of the soul, and in how graceful can we be as we walk through this divinely designed, challenging journey. It was not meant to be just a stroll in the park. You did not come here for that. And understanding that takes some of the sting out of it, I believe. Knowing that for every valley, there's a peak on the other side of it. And that allows you to keep treading water, right? I don't need to even think about the 60 hours of treading, just the next minute, just the next step, learning to work with it, when it comes your way. We only suffer from the clinging of the mind. And, he mentioned fasting. I mean, something I just did, an 8-day fast. It's true. If I thought about being hungry, I was hungry. If I didn't think about it, it would just leave my mind. It's this idea that we're suffering is showing where our mind is still clinging. It's pointing to something. And the truth is, I can tap into both happiness and sadness right now. And going one direction too much or the other keeps us in polarity and out of the richness of the moment. It is the one that lies behind the two. Looking at every moment, saying, show me your beauty. This is arising. Good. Perfect. I trust it. Let's do this. How gracefully can I walk through it? All right. That's my message for today. My story. I'm sticking to it. I do have a song I'm going to share. It's inspired by an artist that is actually doing an album release at the Mystic Manor tomorrow. So Free Soul is the artist, and that's spelled FR33SOL. And the song is called Fertile Soil. Hope you enjoy. Till next time, journey well.
Let go to grow. Let go to grow. Let go to grow. Oh yeah. Let go to grow. Yeah. Oh. With some love and attention, we gon' live off our garden. We don't need your permission. We gon' follow our hearts, yeah. To all my indigo children, fighting for freedom, we gon' pledge allegiance to new nations that give birth through these creations. Get to the root of our traumas before they branch out and grow wild through the forest. Chopping down trees of the ganja to ground my energy and reconnect with Mother Gaia. Out the womb to the moon, watch me soar. Tell Oshun, let it rain, let it pour. The earth gon' drown in the floods of love. Love. Let go to grow. Let go to grow. Let go to grow. Oh yeah. Let go to grow. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, if you don't feel it, you can't heal it. And your mind is not a prison, and life is not a sentence. I hope you feel it in your spirit. Just a moment of silence and a moment of stillness can heal it. I meditate for some minutes, I medicate and replenish. I got pain in my veins, but ain't no break in my spirit. Ain't no break in my spirit. I celebrate cause I'm living. Feel like my trauma is karma, but I'm embracing the feeling. If you don't feel it, you can't heal it. Your mind is not a prison, and life is not a sentence. I hope you feel this in your spirit. Just a moment of silence and a moment of stillness can heal it. Just a moment of silence and a moment of stillness.
Let go to